Fabio Quartararo's current situation at Yamaha has become increasingly uncomfortable. The Frenchman, once the catalyst of a title-winning era, now finds himself battling near the bottom of the standings, with a project that appears frozen in time. Yamaha's minimal progress in 2025 raises an uncomfortable question. Has the manufacturer already sacrificed this season for the sake of its V4 revolution? In 2022, Yamaha finished second in the MotoGP Constructors' Championship. The M1 was still a winning package. But since then, not a single Grand Prix victory and a dramatic decline year by year. Even when finishing fourth in 2023 and 2024, Yamaha had the consolation of outperforming Honda. That is no longer the case. In 2025, the Iwata factory has slipped to the very bottom, a painful reality for a brand with Yamaha's pedigree. Quartararo has rescued this season with brief flashes of brilliance, a podium in Jerez, strong sprint results in Sachsenring and Barcelona, and 5 remarkable pole positions, reminding the world that his talent is not the problem. But beneath the occasional success, the frustration is clear. The focus of the engineers has shifted towards the 2026 bike, Quartararo admits. That's why the improvements for the old inline-4 M1 are minimal. Since mid-season, the M1 has barely changed. Small gains have been found largely through electronics refinement, not core performance upgrades. Quartararo praises Yamaha's efforts in that department, but it is hardly enough to climb the rankings in the Premier class. We've worked hard, especially on electronics. That's our biggest progress, learning how to ride quicker with less assistance. Meanwhile, the brand new V4 prototype, Yamaha's biggest philosophical shift in decades, continues behind the scenes. Jack Miller, with his broad experience on Honda, Ducati and KTM machinery, has joined Quartararo in developing the M1. However, his tone is far more relaxed. Miller understands the trade-off. Demanding more development now is almost impossible, he says. They are clearly building a completely new motorcycle. He sees the current struggle as a necessary growing pain, a pause before the launch of something much more competitive. But even Miller acknowledges time is slipping away and the problems of the present M1 remain far from resolved. Still, his respect for Quartararo's loyalty is evident. Only Fabio knows what he feels. If he thinks differently, I wouldn't blame him. But he is a world-class rider. On a Ducati, he'd fight at the front. For Yamaha, the M1's inline-4 layout has always been a point of pride, a symbol of engineering identity and rider-friendly handling. Riders like Lorenzo, Rossi and Quartararo made history with it. But modern MotoGP has changed. The V4 has become the dominant architecture powering every machine ahead of Yamaha in the standings. Miller reflects. The M1 is a good bike and fun to ride. But we push harder every year. Expectations evolve faster than the machine. He has still managed top 10 finishes and a strong P4 sprint result in Australia. Yet even he recognizes that the next step must be something radical. Soon the inline-4 M1 will become a museum piece literally and metaphorically. The greatest tension lies not in the garage, but in the contract office. If Yamaha is building a future around the V4, they need a leader to ride it and keep the project united. Quartararo is that leader, but for how long? He himself isn't certain. Maybe I'll miss the inline-4, maybe not. The V4 is a new step. We'll see what happens. For a rider in his prime, committed to winning now, the clock is deafeningly loud. From a sporting perspective, Yamaha's strategy resembles a high-risk investment. Put all hands on the V4 project, except being uncompetitive until 2026. If the 2026 Yamaha V4 becomes a race winner, this painful transition period will be seen as a bold, visionary restructure. If not, Quartararo could walk and Yamaha's decline may spiral beyond repair. MotoGP has no patience for long-term excuses. Ducati, KTM, Aprilia all continue to push the limits every weekend. Yamaha are betting on tomorrow while the rest of the grid keeps winning today. History will judge whether this approach was genius or a catastrophic miscalculation. Quartararo remains loyal, but every race where the M1 sinks further into the shadows chips away at that loyalty. The V4 project must deliver. Because Yamaha are not just fighting for performance. They are fighting for survival at the front of MotoGP. Inside Yamaha, there is a clear split in priorities. The race team demands urgent fixes to remain competitive each weekend, while the engineering division is already living in 2026, focused on building a brand new identity. That internal tug-of-war leaves riders stuck in the middle, knowing the bike beneath them is no longer Yamaha's true priority. It's a strange reality. Going racing while knowing the result does not define the project anymore. Despite the absence of results, Yamaha personnel continue to push with admirable conviction. The mechanics and engineers on the ground, working under immense scrutiny, have not given up on the M1. They continue to extract every last drop of performance from a platform nearing the final pages of its history. Their resilience is one of the few bright spots in a tough campaign. Results may be poor, but Yamaha's most valuable asset is still Quartararo's belief. If he loses trust, the entire restructuring loses meaning. A rider of his caliber wants clarity, wants momentum, and most importantly, wants proof that the suffering will lead somewhere. Yamaha know that keeping his motivation alive is just as critical as designing titanium components or refining aerodynamics. Look across the paddock. Ducati continue to set a terrifying benchmark. KTM are relentlessly evolving with strong factory backing. Aprilia are closer to race victories than ever. Even Honda, once buried at the bottom, are now turning the corner with a renewed direction. Yamaha cannot simply hope the future will solve the present. Competitors will not wait politely for the Iwata brand to catch up. Quartararo's contract situation adds drama to every Grand Prix weekend. Every lost second becomes a reminder of what could be elsewhere. He has spoken carefully, always respectful to Yamaha, but behind his smile, there must be doubt. Must he sacrifice another prime season just to maybe reap rewards in 2026? Every race becomes part of his personal evaluation. This is likely the final full season of Yamaha's iconic Inline 4 in proper competition. Fans and purists feel a sense of nostalgia. This engine powered legends to championships, set lap records, and created some of MotoGP's most memorable chapters. But racing evolves. The Inline 4 era is closing not because it failed, but because the sport has changed around it.